The unfolding crisis, Hamas-Israel conflict explained. Today, we're delving into the recent and devastating events between Hamas and Israel. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay informed. Now, let's break down the details. On October 7th, the Palestinian militant group Hamas launched an unprecedented assault on Israel. Hundreds of gunmen infiltrated communities near the Gaza Strip, escalating tensions to an alarming level. The consequences were tragic. At least 1,400 Israelis were killed. The human toll on both sides is deeply distressing. In response to the assault, the Israeli military initiated air and artillery strikes in Gaza, resulting in the loss of more than 3,700 Palestinian lives. Israeli troops are now massing along the Gaza boundary, indicating a potential major ground operation. The situation is intensifying. Simultaneously, Israel has imposed a total blockade on Gaza, denying access to essential supplies such as food, fuel, and other necessities. The blockade has added another layer of hardship to an already dire situation for the people of Gaza. Balfor Declaration and the birth of Israel. How was Israel created? In the aftermath of World War I, Britain took control of the region known as Palestine, following the defeat of the Ottoman Empire. This land was home to a diverse population, with a Jewish minority, Arab majority, and other smaller ethnic groups. Tensions began to rise when the international community entrusted the UK with the task of establishing a national home for Jewish people in Palestine. This task was outlined in the Balfour Declaration of 1917, a pledge by then Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour to Britain's Jewish community. The Balfour Declaration was enshrined in the British Mandate over Palestine and endorsed by the League of Nations, the forerunner of the United Nations, in 1922. This declaration set the stage for a significant chapter in the history of the Middle East. To the Jewish people, Palestine was their ancestral home, but Palestinian Arabs opposed the move, leading to growing tensions. During the 1920s to the 1940s, the number of Jewish arrivals increased, with many fleeing persecution, particularly during the Nazi Holocaust in World War II. In 1947, the United Nations voted for the partition of Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states, with Jerusalem designated as an international city. While Jewish leaders accepted this plan, the Arab side rejected it, setting the stage for events that would shape the region's future. The complex history of Israel, from declaration to disputes. In 1948, amidst rising tensions, Britain withdrew from the region and Jewish leaders declared the establishment of the State of Israel. It was envisioned as a safe haven for Jews fleeing persecution and a national homeland for the Jewish community. However, the declaration triggered intense fighting between Jewish and Arab militias. The day after Israel declared statehood, 5 Arab countries launched an attack. This led to al-Nakba, where hundreds of thousands of Palestinians fled or were forced from their homes, marking a catastrophic turning point. After a ceasefire the following year, Israel controlled most of the territory. Jordan occupied the West Bank, and Egypt took control of Gaza. Jerusalem was divided between Israeli forces in the west and Jordanian forces in the east. The absence of a peace agreement fueled further conflicts in the following decades. In 1967, another war unfolded, leading to Israel's occupation of East Jerusalem, the West Bank, the Syrian Golan Heights, Gaza, and the Egyptian Sinai Peninsula. Most Palestinian refugees and their descendants reside in Gaza, the West Bank, and neighboring countries, facing challenges in returning to their homes. The status of Jerusalem remains a contentious issue. While Israel claims the entire city as its capital, Palestinians aspire for East Jerusalem to be the capital of a future Palestinian state. The construction of settlements in the West Bank and East Jerusalem has further complicated the situation. The U.S. is one of only a handful of countries to recognize the city as Israel's capital. In the past 50 years, Israel has built settlements in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, where more than 700,000 Jews now live. Internationally, settlements are deemed illegal under international law, as acknowledged by the UN Security Council and various governments, including the UK. However, Israel rejects this perspective, leading to ongoing disputes. Understanding Gaza: geography, history, and struggles. So, what is the Gaza Strip? It's a narrow piece of land sandwiched between Israel and the Mediterranean Sea, with a short southern border touching Egypt. It's home to more than 2 million inhabitants, making it one of the most densely populated places on Earth. After the 1948-49 war, it was occupied by Egypt for 19 years. Gaza's history is marked by occupations. Then, in the 1967 war, Israel took control and remained in Gaza until 2005. During that time, Jewish settlements were established. In 2005, a significant event occurred when Israel withdrew its troops and settlers from Gaza. However, it's crucial to note that Israel retained control over its airspace, shared border, and shoreline. Despite the withdrawal, the UN still considers the territory to be occupied by Israel. Life in Gaza is marked by challenges. The densely populated area faces issues of limited resources, economic struggles, and restricted access. The people of Gaza have persevered despite these hardships, showcasing resilience in the face of adversity. The situation in Gaza has drawn attention globally. Leaders and organizations have expressed concerns about the well-being of its residents and called for efforts to address the challenges faced by the people of Gaza. Navigating the challenges: issues between Israelis and Palestinians. At the core of the conflict are several issues that have proven challenging for Israelis and Palestinians to find common ground on. These issues shape the narrative and the ongoing dialogue between the two sides. One major point of contention is the fate of Palestinian refugees. There is a stark disagreement on what should happen to those who were displaced during various conflicts. Finding a resolution that addresses their rights and their future remains a significant challenge. Another critical issue is the presence of Jewish settlements in the occupied West Bank. The debate revolves around whether these settlements should stay or be removed, adding complexity to the territorial dynamics in the region. The city of Jerusalem holds immense significance for both Israelis and Palestinians. The question of whether the two sides should share Jerusalem is a contentious one, involving considerations of religious and cultural heritage. Perhaps the most intricate challenge is the concept of a two-state solution. The idea of creating a Palestinian state alongside Israel involves addressing complex issues of borders, sovereignty, and the coexistence of two nations. The international community closely watches these issues, with many leaders and organizations expressing their perspectives on potential solutions. The global community plays a role in shaping the discourse and influencing diplomatic efforts. Peace and stumbling blocks. A look at Israel-Palestine negotiations. In the 1990s, hopes for a negotiated peace rose with the Oslo peace process. Secret talks in Norway led to a historic ceremony on the White House lawn in 1993, where the Palestinians recognized Israel, and Israel acknowledged the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, as the sole representative of the Palestinian people. The Oslo Accords established a self-governing Palestinian authority. However, optimism faded as cracks appeared. Opposition leader Benjamin Netanyahu criticized Oslo, and the settlement projects in occupied territories accelerated. The emergence of the militant group Hamas further complicated the situation, with suicide bombings aimed at derailing the peace process. Sadly, the assassination of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin in 1995 by a Jewish extremist added a dark chapter to this period. Efforts to revive the peace process continued in the 2000s. In 2003, a roadmap was devised with the goal of a two-state solution, but it faced challenges and was never fully implemented. The region experienced a series of setbacks and escalations, leading to further stalling of peace efforts. Fast forward to 2014, where talks between Israelis and Palestinians in Washington failed, contributing to another period of stalled negotiations. The intricate web of historical grievances and political complexities made reaching a resolution a formidable task. The most recent attempt came with the deal of the century, presented by the U.S. during Donald Trump's presidency. However, the plan was met with skepticism from the Palestinians, who deemed it one-sided, and it never gained traction. Unpacking the Israel-Gaza conflict, recent tensions explained. At the heart of the current conflict is the rule of Gaza by Hamas, an Islamist group committed to the destruction of Israel. Designated as a terrorist group by the UK and many other countries, Hamas gained control of Gaza in 2007, following electoral success in 2006 and subsequent clashes with the rival Fatah movement. In response to ongoing conflicts, Israel and Egypt have maintained a partial blockade on Gaza to isolate Hamas and prevent attacks, especially the firing of rockets toward Israeli cities. Palestinians in Gaza view these restrictions, coupled with airstrikes on densely populated areas, as collective punishment. This year marked a distressing record for Palestinians in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem, with increased tensions and complaints of military actions in response to attacks on Israelis. These heightened tensions may have contributed to the latest escalation. The motivations behind Hamas's recent attack are multifaceted. On one hand, it may be a response to the simmering tensions in the region. On the other, it could be a strategic move to boost popularity among ordinary Palestinians. Additionally, using hostages to pressure Israel for the release of Palestinian prisoners is another dimension to this complex situation. International perspectives. Who stands? Where in the Israel-Gaza conflict? In the current conflict, Israel has found support from key Western allies. The United States, being Israel's closest ally, has strongly condemned the Hamas attack. Over the years, the U.S. has provided substantial military and economic aid, promising additional support, including equipment, air defense missiles, guided bombs, and ammunition. Highlighting their commitment, the U.S. has deployed 2 aircraft carrier strike groups to the eastern Mediterranean. This move is not only to deter potential threats from the conflict, but also to discourage any attempts by Lebanon's Hezbollah movement to open a second front in the war. On the other side of the spectrum, Russia and China have refused to condemn Hamas. Russian President Vladimir Putin has notably blamed U.S. policy for the absence of peace in the Middle East, expressing a different perspective. They claim to maintain contact with both sides in the conflict. Iran, a long-standing adversary of Israel, stands as a key supporter of Hamas and Hezbollah. These groups, backed by Iran, have been engaged in frequent exchanges of fire with Israeli forces. Questions have been raised about Iran's role in the recent Hamas attack, although Tehran vehemently denies any involvement. The geopolitical dynamics are complex, and various nations have taken distinct stances based on their regional interests. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the complexities of the Israel-Palestine conflict. From the historical roots and creation of Israel to the ongoing struggles and recent escalations, understanding this multifaceted issue is essential for fostering empathy and finding potential resolutions. The international response and efforts for peace have added layers to this intricate narrative. If you found this breakdown insightful, give it a thumbs up, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates.